So Zinchenko and Hutchinson have both been cut from the Europa League squad, as well as Jair Cunha. Welcome to your Forest news. Hi guys, hope you're doing well and welcome to your latest Forest news, as Forest have announced their Europa League A-list squad. And coming up, I'll talk you through it and I'll talk you through why certain people have been omitted and everything else. So please make sure you've hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed as well if you're new. And can I just say, on behalf of everyone from FFTV, myself, the Gore Boys, everyone who works behind the stage here, massive thank you to all of you. We've hit the 30k mark and that's down to you guys, so thank you all so much for your support. If it's been a day, if it's been years, if it's been months, you're all part of this community and we love you all. All right, let's get into this. So Forest have announced the 22-man squad and I'll take you through it in just a second so you know who's in it and who's been omitted from it. Look, I did a video the other day before the Europa League draw about the whole A squad and B squad and the kind of criteria on that. So you can go back and watch that if you want full details. But I'll just give you a very quick overview to the restrictions that Forest have had to do. Now, you can name a 25-man squad, but if you don't hit certain criteria, you can only name a 22-man squad. Because Forest can't hit those criteria, they have had to be forced into a 22-man squad. So we're already going, some would say, at a disadvantage. I think 22 men and the quality we have should be enough. Now, why has that happened? So let me read you out our tweet that we put out. Forest cannot register 25-man squad. They have to register a 22-man squad. Why? Because there are two sets of criteria that have to be met. The first one is on club-trained players. This is players who are registered with the club for at least 3 entire seasons or 36 months, and they have to be between the age of 15 and 21, regardless of nationality. Now, Forest can only name one person in this criteria, and that's Ryan Yates. You need to be able to name 4. In the second criteria, it's called associated trained players. Players who were registered with another club in the same national association, e.g. the FA for England, for at least 3 entire seasons or 36 months between the ages of 15 and 21. Up to 4 of the 8 locally trained slots can be filled by associated players. Therefore, the other 4 have to be filled by the first criteria. So the players that we can put into this second criteria, there's basically more than 4. So you got Einar in there, Callum Hudson-Odoi, McAtee, Anderson, Nico Williams, and Morgan Gibbs-White. So of those 6 or 7 players that we have, 4 will be in there. So if we say Einar, Cho, McAtee, and Anderson are the 4 that qualify within there, the likes of Williams and Gibbs-White, they have to be registered as normal players because they don't fall into the criteria. As Forest can only fill 5 of the 8 in this obligation, therefore they have a restricted size squad. So it's now a 22-man squad. So if none of that made sense to you, don't worry too much about it. But basically the bottom line is Forest can only register 22 players. And by the way, 2 of them have to be goalkeepers. So let me show you the squad as was announced. So Forest will be sending Sells and John Victor as the goalkeepers. They've gone with Bolly, Morato, Savano, Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic and Einar as the defenders. In midfield, you got Anderson, Sangare, you got Gibbs-White, you got Yates. Dominguez has been named despite his injury. Douglas Luiz as well, and then your wingers will be Dan Ndoye, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Bakwa, who else we got? Am I missing anyone? McAtee, would be a midfielder, and then up front you'll have Woods, Callum Mwendo, and Igor Jesus. So that's the squad. Now, Zach Abbott and Bot, I think Bot's still at the club, isn't he? They won't be part of that 25-man squad. They will make up what's called the B list or the B squad. And that has its own regulations. I'm not going to go into that one. It is on the previous video. But in essence, it's academy players, okay? So they will be able to be part of the squad. That's an unlimited amount of players you can name in there who fit the criteria of that kind of youth setup. Okay, so Zach Abbott doesn't need to take up a slot in the 22-man squad. Now, what's interesting is because of that, some players had to be cut. And the players that got cut were these three. What's his face? Hutchinson, sorry, Jess, Jair Cunha, and Zinchenko. So, look, there's been an absolute meltdown about these three players being cut. Why would someone like Bolly, for example, or Morato is probably the better example, who's been linked with a move away from Forest, be named ahead of Hutchinson, who is our record signing technically? And then you've got Jair Cunha, who, although is only 20 years old, because he hasn't been at Forest for 3 years, and he hasn't been trained for 3 years, or played, should I say, in another Premier League team in the FA Association, he's been cut as well. And then Zinchenko, well, you all know my thoughts on him, but put that to one side, he hasn't been named either. What do all three of them have in common? One word: Edu. Now, this is just me speculating, but it is a little bit suspect that 3 of the 5, which are, well, 6 players that are bona fide Edu signings, these 3, Igor Jesus, Douglas Luiz, and who's the other one? I can't even remember who the other one is. There is another one. I forgot. Anyway, they're all Edu signings, and these are the 3 that got cut. Now, what I would say on that is I don't think Nuno gets the final say on the squad, but I'm sure he has a huge say in what goes on in the squad. He won't be able to sign it off and submit it to UEFA. That would have to go through kind of the back office and the back room, etc. And probably Edu and Marinakis get to have a glance at that squad. But I find it quite interesting that these are the 3 that got cut. Like, if I put my agendas aside to Zinchenko, he's got European experience. He would know how to play at this level. So I was surprised to see he was omitted. Jair Cunha, I can kind of understand, no European experience and everything like that. It's probably Hutchinson, the one that's got most people talking. Do I understand it? I mean, if we go back to the squad and have a quick look at the amount of wingers we've got, you got Dan Ndoye, Hudson-Odoi, you then got Bakwa. Those are the renowned 3 wingers, and then I guess you could play McAtee, who can play on the right hand side, and then technically Gibbs White if you're really desperate. So you could argue there's still 6 men who can cover those wide positions, but realistically it's 2 plus 1 who would be on the bench. So for example, if you started, say, Bakwa and Hudson-Odoi, you would have Dan Ndoye on the bench, who would be your backup winger. Now, each of these 3 wingers can play on both sides, right? That's what's been kind of, you can, are they specialists on particular sides? Yes. But would I say they can't play on either side? No. So there is enough cover. Am I defending it? No. Look, for me, I personally would have dropped one of the centre backs, either Bolly or Morato. If Morato's being sold, it's stupid to name him in this squad. And if he is staying, then you've got Zach Abbott, who will be in the B list, and therefore he will be able to be the one who could cover if we needed that extra defender, if that makes sense. So it's a bit weird. And also, where's our backup on fullbacks? Because technically speaking, you got Einar and Williams. Yes, Zach Abbott has played at right and left back for us, but he's still just a kid. All you've got covering is Savannah. So it's a little weird. I'm not going to lie. It just feels like there's a lot of fingerprints of Nuno on this one. Now, there are further rumours and reports to say that Nuno and Marinakis have been locked in a room all day and are still locked in it at the time of recording. This was like 10:30. So I'm not sure what's going on, but I don't think this is positive signs on what's happening with the hierarchy. And to be honest, it's infuriating if there's politics being involved in the squad selection, And I'm not talking about world politics. I'm talking about internal football politics where Nuno's saying, I don't like these guys. They weren't my signings. I don't want them in my squad. And because the deadline of this was, I think it was midnight on the 2nd, then this has already been submitted and done and can't be changed. But get your thoughts on it. Hopefully this all makes sense and is kind of giving you guys a bit of insight onto what's happening with the squad. But let's not lose sight of the bigger picture. We're in Europe. We've got a squad there. We're debating who's good enough, who isn't. You'd have taken this last season, wouldn't you? Make sure you've hit the like button. Make sure you've subscribed. Thank you again so much for hitting 30k. I just literally can't believe what a great job you guys have done. We'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.